Hey friends, welcome to this live. I was just adjusting my camera to make sure that you can watch and you can see me and hear me. And I'm very excited to be here today to talk about such an important subject, I think, that a lot of teachers ask me about. And the subject is that of where do I find clients? So let's say the situation is such that you may be moving away from a big platform. Maybe you just moved away from a big platform and you don't know what to do. Where do you find clients? Where do you go? Is there a place where the clients hang out? Do you invest a lot of money in advertising? What do you do? How do you go about it? And so in this live, I'm going to talk about different situations that can happen. Perhaps if you're just decided, okay, I'm done with italki, I'm done with Verbling, I'm done with another platform. I want my own thing. I do not want to spend my years, months and years building somebody else's platform. I want to build my own platform. How do I do that? And it is possible to do that. And it is possible to do it ethically. And a lot of times teachers feel like they just don't have any choices. And really, when you teach online on a platform, the big downside is you are not really learning how to market yourself, um, other than creating a video and putting it out there. Really, you have very limited experience with marketing, and so actually moving away from a platform is the first step towards your own business. And it is going to be difficult. It is going to be different, but it doesn't have to be so overwhelming that you somehow cannot do it. You can do it. A lot of people out there are doing it all the time, and you are able to share your expertise and to bring it to the world as well. So I'm going to talk about this situation where, for example, you're trying to move away from a platform. Another situation might be you say are just, looking for students and you don't know where to find them. That's another very common thing that people have. And thirdly, you might want to sell something that's not one-to-one lesson. So there's a three kind of different groups and scenarios. And I know that sometimes when you watch this, you're like, yeah, forget the first one, the second one. I just want to go to the third one where I can immediately reach many people. And you can definitely try doing that. But without doing the basics, you're kind of going to be moving into the direction of more hardship, creating more hardship for yourself that is not necessary. I mean, just like I shared, I think in the previous live, you can probably go from level A1 to level C1 as a language learner, but you will probably die in the process. And you don't need to do that when you're running a business. When you are just starting out and you have this ambitious dream of creating passive income, and from day one, you're starting to create passive income with very little structure, very little skill, very little knowledge on how sales and marketing work. It is very possible that your first course will not do as well as you thought it would. And then after even you put it out, then it's like, oh, now I need to, you know, build it and reiterate and make changes. How do you do that? And so you're not alone in that. And so that's why I'm like gradually sharing some strategies with you so that you don't jump over yourself and not overextend yourself. There are some people who can do it really fast, but for the most of us, it's important to also acknowledge the journey, accept where we are with the limitations that we have. And accepting does not mean tolerating it, right? There's a difference. Accepting where you are and accepting how things are and where you want to be moves us to action. And this action is more connected to the meaning, the purpose that's important to us, rather than pushing ourselves and trying to get to that big goal that we are not even at the moment skilled to achieve, and then really being really harsh on ourselves. Then there's no joy in it, and no wonder that a lot of people start and then they stop. Okay. Yes, Odd is saying it can be a mix of 3. That is true. You can be in different situations. You can be on a platform for a little bit, you can be working on your own, you can be moving to create, your your online program. So that's what we'll talk about. So first of all, before I forget, I am doing a free class on program readiness. If you are thinking of creating and selling asynchronous programs, I'm doing it next week on the 23rd, and the last time to join would be on the 22nd. And this free event is available for people, for masterclass participants only. The masterclass is called From One to Infinity, and there is a link in the description. And the masterclass is for online language teachers who want to move away from one-to-one classes, and they need to know how to do it. There's a step-by-step approach, and there's also some instructions on how to deal with the reality of, for example, something wouldn't work the way you want to. But in the free class next week, which will be available either live or recorded in the recorded version for all the participants, masterclass participants, I'm going to demonstrate to you what I would do, for example, personally. What would I do if today I wanted to start teaching asynchronously? How would I go about it? How would I go about it, and how would I work on my own thoughts, my mindset, and what actions I would take? So it's a very cool. I'm really excited about this event. I'm going to do demonstrations, so I'm putting myself in the hot seat. So it's going to be kind of fun, and I would love for you to join. If you're a part of the masterclass, there's information to sign up inside the dashboard. If you are not yet, the masterclass is super valuable. It just gives you the basics on how to move away from one-to-one classes, and the link is in the description. So let's get going. So let's say you've been on a platform for a long time, and now you decided that, okay, you no longer want to stay on the platform. You want to have your own students, and you want to be paid what you think you should be paid. You also want to move away because maybe the platform is kind of constricting your creativity, and you're no longer able to offer something that is not within the platform's framework, which has always been my gripe with the platform. And I talked about that in my previous last week's live. The rigidity that that it has, right? The rigidity of the platform that never allows you to try anything else, right? It's only this package and that's it. And if I wanted to try something else, that was not an option. So the way I would go about it is I would talk to all of my students, ideally talking, not writing. If you're writing, it's kind of impersonal. I would take a few minutes at the end or perhaps at the beginning of the class and let them know that, I plan to move away from this platform in so many months. And I would give myself a deadline, because when you give yourself a deadline, you stop procrastinating and saying, oh, well, but I can always go back on italki. In your brain, it becomes serious. And when it's serious in your brain and you feel like you don't have, unless it's like an emergency situation, you don't have a point of returning to this, you start acting differently. And that's what you want. You want to start acting differently. For as long as you're like kind of playing pretend, I'm going to stay here, but then I'm going to go away, you can't really invest in one thing. And of course, everybody knows when their time is to invest and start focusing on one thing. And I can't tell you, okay, now drop everything and go, because everybody's situation is different. But it really is helpful to say to yourself, okay, from this date, give yourself 6 months, give yourself, 8 months, whatever works for you, 3 months, and say, at this date, on this date, I am no longer going to take classes or do classes on italki. I really loved working with you. If you're interested, and the reason I am moving away is because I want to try out different things. I want to create courses. I want to do programs, and the platform doesn't allow me to do that. So then you just tell your student, if you're interested in something like that, I could keep you in the loop. And that is an opportunity for you to connect and actually ask the person to sign up maybe for your mailing list. If you don't have it, you don't have to have it. You don't have to have email marketing in place. You can just send a Google form to stay in touch with the person. Because if a person really has worked with you, even on a platform, and they really enjoyed the way you have helped them and maybe your personal approach, then they would be invested in your further journey. And, for someone who, if you have tried looking for a teacher or a tutor to learn anything, perhaps you were looking for a massage therapist and you found the right person, you do not want to just drop and go look for somebody else. That's a lot of work, right? And so the same thing, if you've had especially people that really enjoyed working with you on a platform, it will most likely be the case that they would be interested in learning more about your other offerings. They would be interested in learning more about maybe your podcast that you want to create or anything else that you want to do. But we are now talking about the offerings, right? We're talking about money. I'm not telling you about like, okay, now you can go on social media and start posting, because that's actually a diversion. What you want to say is, I have outgrown this platform and I want to start my own, something of my own, and I want to develop it, and I want to offer programs and asynchronous courses. And if you are interested, here is the link for you to sign up. Most of the time, if people have really been invested in working with you, they will be interested. And so that's great, because then you have an opportunity to connect with them and offer them something for free, which is going to be my next point. Okay. So, but this is how you want to talk about it, because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm on a platform, I'm not allowed to poach students. And you're poaching if you're actually putting them or giving them maybe exactly the same offer and saying, well, I can offer you the same thing, except it's going to be cheaper. That's probably not a good way to go, because you're really not exchanging anything, except you're, maybe getting a little bit more money. Sometimes people are willing to actually work with you outside of the platform, and they suggest that on their own. But what I'm saying is, when you are building your business, you're not just replicating this big platform. There's no use in that, right? You're building something of your own. You're creating courses and programs that are not just, I'm going to tailor it to your needs, right? They are something more. They're transformative. They are more in-depth. They are more focused, and therefore they give greater point of transformation. And that's, I believe, is something that your student would be interested in. And don't think that you are the only person who outgrows a big platform. Your students outgrow big platforms as well. If they've been working on a specific subject, or they've been working on a language with you for a long time, they also get kind of boring. So bringing something new to it and saying, I'm moving, and in 3 months I will no longer be on the platform. If you want to learn more about it, here is my information. And maybe you have a website, then they will go sign up for the website. Maybe you already have podcasts. Get them to connect with you outside of the platform. Okay. So the second one, if you already have students, right? You have students, but you do not have enough students, right? That is a really common situation. You're no longer on the platform. You have students, you don't have enough, you want more, and you want to offer them something that is asynchronous. And right now you've been offering, it's not working, right? And I want to, first of all, acknowledge the fact that you're offering and you are trying and you are taking steps towards working differently is a big step towards building your business resilience and building your business. And sometimes it takes our resilience and also sticking with it for longer than most people would, and trying different approaches, and also assessing the way we make offers and what kind of offers, repackaging our services so that it is more appealing for people, right? And listening to people's feedback. So, some of the things you can do when you would like to have more students, but your social media is meh, and you don't know, like, you don't have your email marketing, it has not been alive, is collaboration. So, sometimes people say, yes, I'm going to go and talk about something, but I'm going to post it on my social media, or I'm going to go and do my own YouTube live. And this is great, I'm doing my own YouTube live, I have my own channels. But along with that, I'm also looking for opportunities to what they call in marketing, borrow other people's audiences. That is super important, borrowing other people's audiences, right? And what that means is it requires that you do a little bit of research, finding people and consistently be on a lookout for people that might be doing similar things and might already have an audience that is bigger than yours. And either way, even if their audience is just as small as yours, it's different audience, it's different people. And you can go and do something like a live or a workshop, a free workshop from in the beginning to this audience. And this free workshop or free masterclass or free live class has to somehow be connected to your actual offer, what you want to offer. And here it's very important too. The little step that we must not forget is defining your focus. Like, I'm not saying niche because that's kind of the word that scares a lot of people. And niche is ever evolving. What I have as my niche today was not what it was in 2016 when I first set up my website. I still wasn't quite sure how I was helping online language teachers. I was helping them with email marketing. I was helping them with strategy, but I wasn't specific enough to tell them that I'm going to help you to move away from one-to-one classes to sustainable programs to where you can make the same money and work less and then have enough room to actually make more money. You can do it in a way that a lot of people might suggest, create a big course and stuff like that, but this is what I'm offering. But you will be able to understand your niche over time. At first, you choose the direction. And how do you choose the direction? You look at yourself, look inside yourself. Most of our answers to the questions we have are inside ourselves, right? And decide what you do not like to teach and what you do like to teach more. It feels simplistic, but it's not so much. But if you really listen to yourself, even if you teach everybody everything, you will know that you probably do not like teaching every single thing, right? When I taught ESL, I knew I hated business English. I knew I hated test prep. I was doing it because it was paying me very well, but I hated doing it. And I couldn't see myself creating a course around it because that meant I would just have to get really deep into the subject that I hated. What I really loved, and at the time I couldn't really define, but for me, what was the most rewarding, and it felt incredible when I worked with students that had those kinds of requests, because then my lessons didn't feel tedious at all. But what I really enjoyed is helping people go from like not being able to speak at all and yet being able to read and write very well to actually speaking so well that they no longer needed to write anything. And I worked with IT people and I worked with a lot of people in the area. Thank you. And in different industries. I worked with people in different industries in business and in others, and I, I realized that that was the common denominator. I really enjoyed that point of transformation, but I couldn't really verbalize that because I felt like a niche had to be something, like this, you know, really well-dressed thing where you put on a black suit and tie and glasses, and it has to be so super businesslike. I didn't realize that niching could be something different. So anyway, you have that answer inside of you, and you also have that answer if you currently have clients from your clients. So some of your clients might actually say, you know what, we really, really enjoy when you help us with this. And when they tell you that, you listen to it, and that's how you know. And so that's what you want to take as a foundation to go and talk about as your free class or your free offer with other people's audiences, right? So you do some research. And of course, there's a lot of thinking that comes in. Well, but what if I go there and people will think that I'm stealing their audience, right? Or people are thinking that I'm stealing their clients. And that is, again, is a mindset thing where you need to look at yourself and at other creators as both winning, because it is possible, despite the fact what you've learned at teaching at colleges or even teaching online on a platform, that there can be a lot of people doing similar things and still having enough clients. There is a lot of opportunity there. And you can obviously create certain results of lack if you feel like everybody's out there to get me and my clients. Or you can create for yourself, as you think about it, the scenario of abundance, or even the scenario of sufficiency. Abundance might be a little difficult when you come from scarcity, but the scenario of sufficiency, to say and believe that there are sufficient people and that you are not in competition with those that you're going to present for. And let's say a person has an audience and you have an interesting approach to talk about fluency, right? Or to talk about why is it that people, after so many years of learning a language, still cannot speak fluently. I mean, as teachers, that subject seems to us a little boring, right? We think it's second nature to know this, right? We feel like everybody should know this. And this is another thing that you want to be aware of, because it's called the curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge means you feel like everybody should know what you already know. And because you're an expert, you don't realize that some things that are second nature to you, like, for instance, checking your dictionary and being able to figure out exactly this word is used, that is second nature to you. And for other people, there's a lot of learning that goes into it, right? The same thing is with fluency. Sometimes people don't understand why they can't improve their speaking while all they're doing is watching Netflix. And they don't realize, you and I know, right, that you can't improve your productive skills when you're only working on receptive skills. But it's not so easy and straightforward for students that never had that experience, right? So the second point that I'm trying to get to is you borrow audiences and you have a free thing that you would like to share, free masterclass, free live. And don't just make it live where we just come and chew the fat. Nobody has time for that. Come in and bring something valuable, right? And it doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be like the perfect thing. In fact, sometimes when we think about, it only has to be perfect, then we are really shortchanging ourselves and shortchanging our audience. There's somebody in the audience that is right there, out there, looking for you and waiting for you to give them permission, for example, not to memorize lists of words. I remember I had a client years ago. She was actually my first client and friend. And she was an ESL student, and she had been trying to learn English on her own. And she also had a teacher 3 times a week. But the teacher was telling her that you can't speak until you memorize a certain number of words. So because my friend was so diligent, she would be memorizing these monotonous vocabulary lists, and they were not topical either. She was memorizing them by the letter in the alphabetical order. Um, and she was also going through textbooks. She knew like upper intermediate grammar, but she couldn't answer me the simple question when I asked her. She's like, "Oh, you teach English? Let's do it. Ask me something." So I would ask her like, "So how's the weather today?" And she didn't know what I asked her. And she felt really bad at that moment. Um, but it was because of how she was taught. She was taught wrong. You do not need to learn vocabulary first before you speak. And these are some things that you can bring in. And these stories, I'm sure you have a bunch of your own that you can bring to the live, and it will connect with the person. And somebody out there is waiting for you to tell them, to give them permission. No, don't do this. You can do it better. You can do it in a more effective way. So, number three, once you have that free offer, right? So you go and do maybe a free class or a free live or a free interview, whatever, but it has to be focused on around a subject. Don't beat around the bush. Make it worth people's while. The next step is actually to make an offer. So, if, for example, I went there and talked about how we become fluent, right? Or how do we actually learn to speak? And how can we learn to speak maybe on our own when we don't have an interaction with a teacher? How do we do that? After I do that, I want to give people an opportunity to work with me. And that's where you are offering a program. Or maybe if you don't have a program, if it's a scary word for you, if you don't know what it is to offer something that doesn't have one-to-one classes, I talk about that in my masterclass, From One to Infinity, that helps you teach not just one-to-one, but actually from one to many. And you can do that too. And there's a link in the description, but you want to offer that. Now, sometimes maybe you will be it's a new thing, even going out there and showing your face. It's already a big ask. And maybe at that point, you just want to sell something that you feel most comfortable with. Like maybe you want to sell a package of just 4 lessons, a monthly package. But even if you do that as a package, try to make it not like, hey, you can get classes with me, but like right now, I'm offering this 4-class package that will help you improve your fluency, right? So it's somehow connected to this. But I would encourage you to try, if you have already been selling one-to-one classes, to try and make it at least a hybrid, right? At least, okay, 2 classes and then 2 asynchronous tasks. 2 classes and 4 prompts, for example, using your voice chat app. Or if it's a writing program, then you're using Google Docs. So that is, really important to make an offer. Sometimes teachers don't have students or don't have clients because they don't make these offers. So when someone comes like, oh, it's slow, my month is slow, I don't have students. Well, what are you doing to get students? And so in order to get students, you want to, number one, go to the audience where there is, or go to the people that already have audience. Perhaps it's somebody on Instagram, somebody on YouTube. Perhaps somebody has a Facebook group. Maybe there is a summit that people are doing, a conference, a retreat, a 2-3 day weekend retreat where people are talking about how to improve fluency. And if there is none like that, you can start it in a very scrappy way. But if it's your first trial, please do not, because then you're going to get into it and it will be too much of a hassle. Go and make it easy for yourself. All the time, ask myself, I do this all the time. How can I make it easy for myself? Like right now, I'm in the middle of something. We're opening the community for online language teachers and coaches, Smart Teachers Library next week. And there's this master class and live class and lots of classes for me. And there are some things that I keep in my mind for like a couple of months from now. And then I'm making a decision. Sometimes I'm making a decision. Okay, how can I make it easy? How can I make, my social media easier? Maybe instead of creating and writing a post, maybe I can just go live. And going live, I know it can be super scary, especially when you are sitting there and nobody is watching. I know how that feels. But on the other hand, think about it. You can just talk and be free and try to and treat it as practice, and then people will watch your live eventually. Or you do live with somebody else. Doing something and making an offer is the foundation of getting clients. If you are not getting clients, ask yourself, okay, why am I not getting clients? Well, mainly, maybe you're not making offers. Maybe you don't have as many people to make offers to. Maybe you're not making connections with different teachers and creators in your industry to go and make offers to. And it's amazing if you go with an offer to somebody who is already a creator, right? And you tell them, can I please, do the interview and get people on my list or get people into a free workshop? And by the way, it doesn't have to be a free workshop. It can be a free class, right? One-on-one. If you can't bring people, many people, just do one-on-one. Just do 2 or 3 people. It doesn't matter. But at the end, you want to make an offer. You want to make an offer. Okay, so you make connections, you make a free thing, right? Free class, then you make the actual offer. And then the last very important thing, you evaluate. You do not skip this step. If you want to get clients, you want to evaluate. You want to look at and see where your strength went throughout the month and which one seemed to be more successful. Perhaps having one-on-one classes that are free and offering your program works better for you. So then you ask yourself, how can I get more one-on-one free classes to make more offers? Well, that means you need to go and borrow other people's audiences and make connections to bring more people in, right? Then if you see, for example, that you had perhaps you had a class that you offered and you made an offer, but people gave you different reasons. Well, I'm not sure if this is a good thing. Oh, I don't know how a synchronous program works. I don't know if it's going to be good for me. Those are actually good and helpful things to use for future reference. So next time when you're doing a live like that, you want to write down and say, okay, how can I communicate the value of my offer better? And then finally, if it's it's difficult even for you to believe in what you're selling, if you're trying to sell an asynchronous program but you can't believe that it's actually going to work, it's going to be very difficult to sell it. So start selling and getting clients in packages that you believe more in. So maybe at this moment, you still are kind of tied in your brain to the one-to-one classes. Try doing that. Maybe try something different. Maybe do a hybrid. Many teachers did that I worked with. They would do a hybrid. And a hybrid means instead of offering 4 classes a month, I'm going to offer 2 classes and 2 kind of asynchronous assignments. And that worked well for them until they had enough courage to ask for the same amount of money for a package without one-to-one classes at all, without your time. I mean, obviously you're going to put in time, but definitely not as much. So then it's an issue of belief. So there's always like 2 things that are at play when you are trying to get clients and you can't get clients. Um, it might be the issue of strategy, and so you just don't know how to go about it. Maybe if you analyze and you realize, okay, this past month I got 3 clients from that advertisement that I put in a local coffee shop. Maybe I should go and review that advertisement, make it better, make it brighter, make it pop out. And maybe I can, on top of putting that advertisement there, I can go and do some live classes, face to face classes or clubs in the actual cafe. You can also try and spread the word in a variety of ways with online communities, right? You can bring people and offer people live one-to-one classes on Nextdoor, on classified ads, right? Or classified, yeah, it's kind of advertisement like Craigslist in the US. Maybe you can do it on Facebook, in Facebook groups, but always talk to the admin before you do it, okay? So it doesn't look spammy. So you analyze and see, okay, this is how it happened. Or maybe you got most of your clients through word of mouth. So how can you activate that? Start with the things that have worked 100%, and then still try doing things more and more online. Because the more you do stuff online, the more results you will get, right? The more lessons you will learn, the better you will be equipped to finally, at some point, when you create a course, to have that audience, right? Because we don't realize that little by little our audience is growing as we're taking steps. And the more we'll be able to actually make an offer and speak about the benefit of the offer and not feel like we are sounding too salesy. So anyway, these are my strategies that I've used myself and I've helped online language teachers with. I know sometimes the hardest part in all of this is taking that first step, because we often overthink it and we tell ourselves, if I only knew how to do it, then I would do it, right? And we tell ourselves, I just don't know what to do. But that shuts down the opportunities in front of us. And we stop taking action. Instead, we're waiting until we know enough, right? And the truth of it is, it's like a form of self-sabotage, because you learn what you need to do in the process of doing. When you sit and wait, oh, should I have a class or should I have a webinar? What do I call it? What language do I do it in? Do I do it in my mother tongue or do I do it in the target language? Do I do that in this language or this language? And then we start overthinking and overanalyzing, and that actually keeps us from doing. And the more we overanalyze, the less we're inclined to do anything. But once you start doing it, then you spend less time or energy on thinking, but actually taking action and analyzing what works. And then you become more and more confident. It's like with language learning, it's with any kind of skill as well. So I'm really happy that you're here today. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. If you're watching the recording, please feel free to leave me your comments. I really love hearing from you. This is amazing. I am excited for you. I'm going to tell you again that there's a masterclass that is absolutely going to change your life. The way you teach, it's going to change it. And the participants of the masterclass will get the invite for next week when I'm doing a live class where I'm doing a demonstration. What would I do? Like, how would I go about offering an asynchronous program to a client? What if they tell me no? How I will go about? What if they tell me yes? What am I going to learn through this process? What am I going to tell myself when I fail? How am I going to use failure as fertilizer rather than a stick to beat myself with? Like, how am I going to do that? And how am I going to overcome these obstacles instead of seeing the obstacle and saying, well, I knew it wouldn't happen anyway, right? Because that kind of attitude is not helping us move forward. So please let me know in the chat if you have questions, but otherwise, I really appreciate you being here. I hope this was helpful to you. You got some food for thought. I tried to kind of cater it to the mix of three, as Odd said. I'm super happy that you made the time for this live. I don't treat it lightly because I know that you all have a lot of stuff going on. We all have a lot of stuff going on. So I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. And until next week. And if you have an idea for a specific, very specific live, or maybe some direction that you would like me to go into and explore, I would love to do that. To hear it several times. Yes, sometimes certain lessons we need to hear several times. And it's really, really helpful. That way they just stick better. Thank you so much. And until next week. Bye-bye, everyone.